Coming up next, an interview with a band that was a major force in the 80s and 90s. And you may have wondered whatever happened to them. Well, they're here today to tell us a story. They were an underground band for years, but just when they started breaking through, their lead singer told them that she was quitting to pursue a solo career. That solo career would be pretty major, but she would do just one more album with them, give them time to figure out what they were going to do. That album became their biggest one yet, and it led to one of the most iconic Unplugged albums ever. Now, when she left, instead of packing it in, the band decided to make their backup singer their lead. And their next album, it flourished. It gave them their second biggest hit as a band, and they still tour to this day. Stories coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you ever put a big wad of Big League Chew in your mouth, you know, playing Little League or what have you, you're going to dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now so you don't miss an episode. Click the white button. Also, check us out on ProfessorRock.com. Go sign up there for more stuff. I'm excited to bring you another episode from our series, Revelations. This is where featured artists reveal rare stories about their biggest songs, along with fascinating insight about their careers. On this installment of Revelations, we track down a band that had a major impact in the 80s and 90s, from the underground to the mainstream. Talking about 10,000 Maniacs. We have singer Ramsay and founding members keyboardist Dennis Drew and guitarist John Lombardo. Now, Mary came to the Maniacs to play on their 1992 album, Our Time in Eden, their biggest yet. She played viola and violin, and then she sang backup on their Unplugged album in 1993 with Natalie Merchant. And Natalie had told 10,000 Maniacs she would be leaving for a solo career, but she said that she'd do one more album. Because the album was so big, it led to the Unplugged album. That was kind of a thing back in the 90s, right? And both became their biggest albums yet, and it actually had their first actual hit, the number 11 Because the Night cover. Which actually performed better than the Patti Smith original from the 70s. Once Natalie left, the band, instead of quitting, they actually had backup singer Mary Ramsay take over. And in 1997, they had their second biggest hit as a band, their biggest from a studio album. It was a cover of the Roxy music classic More Than This. It hit number 25. And really what took them 6 albums to get a hit with Natalie Merchant, they did it on their first album with Mary. That's pretty cool. Coming up next, the band talks about writing and recording their hits, These Are Days. And Candy Everybody Wants.
Give them what they want.
As well as a story of their Unplugged album and cover of Because the Night. Here's the interview. Well, These Are Days. The arrangement on that is amazing. I mean, you could feel a magic between the band musically that's happening there. The organ part, I love. I mean, I feel like that brings the whole song together.
Yeah, that's the melody of the song too, if you noticed. Yeah, but she was on vacation and we wrote that song musically. And, you know, probably similar to What's the Matter Here in the sense, that's a Rob song. Sometimes Rob could just come in and just play these chords, and they're beautiful chords. And it was easy to find something to do. It wasn't hard because Rob was not a guy that says, okay, play this and then go here and then go here. He was never like that. He would play. And we'd be going, well, what do we do next? And he'd just kind of go like this. And we'd go, oh yeah, go there. And we would just follow him. And it was easy for the rest of us.
Sort of, I wouldn't say egoless, but he was a very giving person.
Oh yeah.
Open, and I think that's why a lot of, somebody's got to have that kind of personality really helps things work well together, like a group dynamic. If you have somebody who is like that, it's very important, or things just don't get done.
I remember reading that she said that she wanted lyrically to capture that, going through a long, cold winter in New England, and then spring comes about and the joy of spring. And the music says that. Without the lyrics even being put to it, you feel that joy. But what did you think when she first sang that? Because it feels like just such a perfect mingling of the words and the music.
Oh, it was beautiful. For me, in the middle of making that record, my wife was pregnant. We went up and saw U2 in Albany. But when she got home, her water broke, which was way early, about 30 weeks. So she was flown up to the Buffalo Children's Hospital, and I had to leave recording and go up and get an airplane from Albany and go there. And it was a big emergency, and everything went on hiatus for a few weeks. And then this beautiful song comes out of all of that.
Well, let's talk about the Unplugged version, because like I said, we meticulously listened to that and watched that. And I just love the background vocals between, singing with Natalie on that. Just beautiful. And the mandolin beginning, I love that. Mm-hmm.
We were serious about making a good record. That was a big deal to do Unplugged.
Oh, yeah.
And we took it very seriously. We brought in Paul Fox, who had produced the record, and we said, let's make this like a record. Let's really do it. Let's not just sit up there with, our acoustic guitars, the 4 or 5 of us, and just do a regular thing. And MTV and our record company was pushing us, because we knew it was going to be a record too if it was good enough. So we just took it seriously, which we did with all of our work. And we just brought in a couple of extra people. Jerry Murata came and played some percussion.
Amanda Kramer
came in and played. And Bill Dillon from New Orleans came in and played a little extra guitar and stuff. So it was a process. We sat around, we rehearsed for a couple of weeks trying to figure out what to do with these songs to make them a little special. Just put our heads together and decided, let's do this, let's do that. And it evolved. Again, it evolved. We just took our time with it and allowed things to happen organically. No one person was saying, do this, this, or this. Although I will say, because the night was an inspired choice, they said, you got to do a cover. You got to do a cover. All right, we'll do a cover, And that was an inspired choice.
Well, Mary, tell me about your feelings being there, because I just love that performance.
It was a thrill. I'd been working with John. I met John in 1989 when we formed our John and Mary duo.
John and Mary, yeah.
And through association, I ended up becoming doing the background vocals and strings and so forth, or viola. And but to have that opportunity, it was pretty amazing. Kind of everything happened really quickly with that transition. But to be in the studio and the audience and to the audience just is right so close, and to hear all the different musicians come together in these pieces was great. And then there was David Byrne was there.
Yeah, David was there. He was fun. He wanted to do Ooh, Las Vegas, right? The Graham Parsons song, but we ended up doing Dallas.
Well, then the performance at the inaugural ball in '93.
Oh yeah, the crazy, where Tony, our saxophone player, got to play with En Vogue with his awful mullet that he had. Yeah, that was great fun. I've never seen so much security. That was crazy. We're at the hotel and they put us in a little room with Priscilla Presley, and they watched us for a while, and then they marched us over to the gig. There was a lot of security. It was interesting to just see Robert De Niro and Chrissy Hynde and all these people. It was crazy. Yeah. Nerve-wracking.
You used to tour with r.e.m.
They were real great guys, Southern gentlemen. They were really good to us. They were good to a lot of bands. They were the kind of guys that would say, all right, replacements, you get 2 weeks. Maniacs, we'll do 2 weeks with you.
Yeah, they let each guy choose
Each guy.
their favorite. They'd rotate who they'd bring in.
Really?
Yeah, and then they'd rotate and always have different bands opening for them, and were very supportive.
You give them what they want.
Again, that was sort of like the whole movement we were part of. No one else was going to help you except for the other bands. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times in the early days, we would stay in sleeping bags on the floors of other bands, and we would help them as well. There wasn't a lot of competitiveness amongst ourselves because, you know, when people refer to the term alternative music, it was an alternative to what was the structure that was going on.
Sure.
You know, and it shook up the world for a while.
For sure.
And then after a while, the record companies found a way to...
Well, college radio had a lot to do with it. And Steve and I were plugged into college radio, so we called up WGAS, or whatever it was, the Georgia, Athens radio station, the college radio station. GAS.
Mary and I have used that term.
Who gives us something?
And we called Sue Murphy, who was running the University of Georgia radio station, said, where do we play? You know, she said, you play the 40 Watt Club, and you can sleep in my apartment, you know, and her boyfriend was Juan from the Little Tigers. So we did, you know, we got there, Doug the Hippie booked us, Pat the Whiz mixed the sound, and we slept on the floor of Sue Murphy's. And that's the way it was. And then other bands, you met other bands, and they'd help you out.
Yeah, I mean, because it's, you know, you think back, it was such a different time. Before cell phones, before, I mean, so many things, really, you know, rewind.
We used to do it with Rand McNally.
Trying to get travel. John and I would be touring together, and I'd be trying to not get car sick, reading a map, you know, in Boston, trying to figure out how to get to there, here to there. And so I think that there was more of it was a nightmare.
Before the days of GPS, it was a nightmare.
and also I think that there was that sense that people were kind of helping each other because it was a scene, you know. And I think it's still the same way with bands, younger people with bands. It's such a
you hear Riley talk about
invigorating bonding and a sense of like that you're doing something. That's when John and I started to play together. When we would play, John, sometimes we would not have a huge audience at a show, and you know, if one or two people said they liked it, John would say, we got to just believe it in this and believe in us, and let's keep doing it, even though other people might not like it. And I think there's that similar mentality to younger bands too, is you feel like, well, this is something creative and it's defining me, and maybe I'm not getting monetary success, maybe I'm not getting these other things. And this is exactly what you guys started out without having any of that, and then you did begin to get those things of monetary success and a lot of positive feedback. But that's you know, that's pretty important to have a group or somebody you work with that you just keep doing it and believing in what you're making together.
Well, Love Among the Ruins in '97 that came out. You take over as lead vocalist. I love your version more than this.
Mary came up with the idea of doing More Than This, and none of us really thought, you know, the record label would get all enthusiastic again.
It came about on its own very quickly.
It sounds real different too.
It does. You know. It just, everybody approached it, and it turned out to be pretty much what it was the first time we played it.
And the greatest thing is Brian Ferry wrote us a thank you letter. What a gentleman.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment about 10,000 Maniacs and their music. What are your memories of this band, your memories of these songs? Man, these guys were such a force back in the day. I remember I was in a band with this female lead singer. She loved Natalie Merchant. She sang this song in our band and did a great job. These Are Days. Anyway, let's have a great discussion below about Natalie Merchant as well and about Mary Ramsay. I think their cover of More Than This is excellent. Let's have a great discussion. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our community of building music, keeping the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.